Last week's episode of Critical Role was wild. Despite the fact that my interest in Critical Role has been waxing and waning over the years, this most recent arc has had me enthralled. This episode had ups, it had downs, the stakes were high, and we also got to see a bunch of our favorite characters from previous campaigns. But for all the excitement and fanfare, the players didn't really do anything. Despite their best attempts, Bell's Hells had little effect on the ultimate conclusion of this story. Matt allowed them to do whatever they wanted, but it seemed to have little to no effect. Yet, anyway. We don't know what will be revealed this week. It ended pretty mysteriously after all. But based on what we saw in this episode, they were far outclassed and didn't really have much of a hope of actually changing anything. So that begs the question, did Matt Mercer just railroad his players? And the short answer is, well, yeah, but it's mostly fine. The long answer is a little bit more complicated and requires more context. Also, spoilers for episode 51 of Campaign 3. Bell's Hells have been following the threads of this mystery regarding the Red Moon Ruidus for a while. They've learned it has something to do with Imogen's powers as well as Imogen's mother. They traced it back to the head of the Cerberus Assembly, Ludinus, who's an elf that has dropped hints of being extremely old, like calamity old. They've learned that Ludinus hates the gods and is hell-bent on releasing an ancient elemental from its prison, which is Ruidus, so it can pursue and devour the gods. They don't think this is a particularly good idea, so they're on their way to stop it. They do their best to disrupt Ludinus's plans by destroying his machinery and interrupting his rituals. And this episode was the main ritual that would actually release this elemental. Bell's Hells did everything they could to stop it, including crashing an airship into the center of the ritual, but it made little difference. The episode ends in a flash of white as the ritual completes, and the party is scattered across the globe, some of them seeing a red beam descending from the red moon. We don't know exactly what happened, and if the damage the Bell's Hells did really had any effect on the release of the elemental, but for now, it looks like Ludinus's plan was a success. So by definition, this episode was a railroad, and it shows signs of a DM mistake that a lot of us make at some point. The should have just written a book kind of DM. I'm sure a lot of you have either played with that kind of DM or been that kind of DM. Personally, I've done both. So it's only natural to see what Matt did last week and relate it directly to that stereotype, because that's a bad way to DM, right? Robbing the players of their agency is a cardinal GM sin. And mostly, yes, but I think there's a little more nuance than that. Of all of the actual plays out there, Critical Role is probably the one that's the most narrative focused. And narratives need setup. And to set up a significant threat, and to have underdog heroes who need to rise to a challenge, you need certain kinds of things to happen. You need a villain who stands far above the heroes in terms of their power. You need a serious threat that all of the players care about, and you need them to be personally invested. And one way to do that is through a session like this, where the players are just too small to do anything about it. And the thing is, this isn't the first time Matt has done this. Back in Campaign 1 at the beginning of the Chroma Conclave arc, Iman was attacked by 4 ancient dragons. The party was practically useless against them, and the only thing they could do was attempt to survive. The players had little agency in that episode, except in how they escaped. They're just running, desperately trying to find out if their friends survived, and are looking for a safe place to hide. It's actually really similar to this most recent episode, and it's seen as one of the best sessions of Critical Role, and for good reason. It's exciting, the tension is palpable, and it introduces a major shift in the status quo, while establishing powerful, intimidating villains that seem impossible to defeat. And it unifies the party into a single goal: defeat the Chroma Conclave. Generally speaking, railroading your players into plot elements isn't particularly good DMing in my opinion, but it is sometimes necessary. It's just difficult to pull off, since railroading, or just linear storytelling, carries such negative connotations in tabletop RPGs. And it's not without good reason, I might add. It's just that people tend to see things in binaries. Sandbox good, railroad bad, when that isn't always true or fair. I also think that this specific event is really important for Critical Role as a brand. The company has been going through a lot of changes lately, with their production deal with Amazon and the turbulence in the D&D community lately. I have a feeling this world-shattering event is going to have ripples across all their media. The World of Exandria is essentially their flagship product right now, and they may be wanting to break away from other distinct products, like those owned by Wizards of the Coast, more thoroughly. There have been rumors about Critical Role developing their own RPG system for a while, and a cataclysmic event like this that changes the very nature of the world could be a perfect way to introduce a change like that. This is pure speculation though, so take that with as much salt as you need. But ultimately, all this is just me trying to justify it, right? Like, sure, he railroaded, but he did it right, or he did it for the good of the company. But isn't that still bad DMing? And I would say no, actually, because of this.
Shut up! Oh, man, shut up! No! Way! You cannot be serious!
Where is it?
Oh, God.
His players were very clearly having a good time. They loved seeing their old characters, they loved the high stakes, and as they've said multiple times before, they love the risk of sometimes losing, especially if it means a stronger story. At the end of the day, the primary audience a Dungeon Master is trying to please are the players at the table. Everyone else is secondary. And it's totally valid if you just didn't enjoy the episode. There's been a lot of popular media that I just don't vibe with, so I get that. But you don't really get to say that it's bad D&D. The only bad D&D is when the people at the table aren't having fun. And the cast of Critical Role was clearly having a blast. Matt Mercer knows what he's doing. He is a great GM, and personally, I'm really looking forward to whatever the final boss of this campaign will be. If it's anything like the Uk'otoa fight from the Mighty Nine reunion, it'll be spectacular. In fact, I made a video about the Uk'otoa fight that you can check out here. Shout out to my channel members, Viva Fox, my mom, Caleb Eggensberger, Xenon, Ali Siram, Wellboot1, FireGen, and Weston Bradshaw. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, become a member if you like it, and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching.